So welcome everyone today to our midnight training session. Today we'll be going over external program interaction and compatibility with Midnight. We'll be glossing over some interaction with the inventory application, which is an iDevice compatible app that can be downloaded from the Apple or iTunes store and installed on your iPads or iPhones for interaction with inventory management. We'll also be looking at our Shopfloor data collection software, which is a second URL accessible through Chrome, which with the use of an iDevice emulator can allow users to utilize their Shopfloor experience on a PC or their iDevice to log clock in and clock out records and job records for employees for job costing and DLC tracking. We'll be taking a brief look at our API integration procedure and how Midnight interacts with connectivity to outside programs such as My Order Desk, PageDNA, and WindowBook. We'll be looking at our client portal, in which your customers can use to track their escrow balances, estimates and orders, inventory quantities and counts, and outstanding proofs. And finally, we'll take a look at our accounting export package, in which we can push out order data, purchase order data, and even payments and checks out from Midnight into QuickBooks. We do support other accounting programs, and I'll demonstrate that list later on. But today we'll be looking at how it interacts with QuickBooks, as it's our most commonly used accounting program to date. We'll start by taking a look at our inventory system. In order to connect with our inventory, you first need to have some inventory set up within Midnight. The inventory in question can all be managed within your warehouse module. Any items that you see in here will be accessible within your inventory's app. The items can be added using the inventory system within Midnight management here, or they can be added by using the inventory app. Quantities, transactions, and the storage locations in which goods are stored in can all be controlled and managed through the app and seen in greater detail within the Midnight process here. And finally, documentation such as skid flags and transaction audit reports can be accessed either within the item records or occasionally, depending on what the reports are, can be printed out within the inventory app itself. We'll be referencing this item today in particular, item ID number 90077 on our support site. This item is a 22 by 17 sheet with details listed in the paper details here, as well as the general details tab here. You can see that there's already quite a few transactions and positive quantities on hand, and we'll be able to see how these interact with the inventory application as we go through the process of adding and subtracting through it. Using my iDevice, we can see that after opening up our inventory application, we'll be greeted with a login screen. In here, we can type in the address of the website in which we need to connect to. Noting that what we have set up here will be your website address, and also a username and password that are compatible with the site in which you're logging in through. Once you've done this, you can click the Save button and log yourself in. And from here, you'll see a menu with a couple of different options. Starting with Create, which you'll see at the lower left hand of the screen. By entering the Create menu, you can add a new item to your inventory, starting with the addition of an owner or customer. And filling out details on the item code, item name, type, and description, as well as plugging a quantity for your item and a location to store it. As you create new inventory within Midnight, you'll see that the inventory records themselves have an item ID that they reference with. This item ID will be auto-generated and updated as you proceed through the process. In our case here, we can see that our newest item is 90493. And if we use the create process to add a new item, we can give our goods as much detail as we need in terms of a name, and a location, which can be selected from a drop-down list or by scanning a barcode from a document that has been printed out at Midnight. Make sure that your details get added in as they need. Now from here, if you were to click the button in the upper right, which looks like a box with an arrow in it, you can use this to print a document out of the inventory system, either a label for the item itself or a skid flag, to one of your Bluetooth printers or any printers that support AirPrint. The item here in question, for instance on the skid flag, will pull from the customer info and also reference the quantity as being added to the location in which you've stored your goods as you receive them. We can now see, if we look back in Midnight, after refreshing our warehouse module, that our item has been added. And if we enter in, we'll see details under the locations, showing us where we put our item, and a transaction showing that we've received so much of this item on our mobile device, as well as with the time and date stamp and the user account of the user who added this to the system. Back in the module, we can use the add put away to increase or add inventory to our system. There's two different ways that you can get your inventory added in, either by manually adding in the ID number, or by using the barcode image scanner to scan your item as you proceed through. If you want to get your inventory ID out of the system, you can either have it typed in here or by printing off an item label. You can scan it by tapping the barcode image. And then having it auto-apply that item with all of its details in the system under itself. If you need to add inventory specifically to be used on an order, you can select the order from the order dropdown as well. This allows you to add inventory to a job that it's specifically meant for, so it cannot be pulled across any other jobs. If you simply wish to add inventory to your warehouse and you don't have a job to tie it to yet, you can simply leave the order number blank as you go through your process. And finally, as you finish up with your item, just make sure you add a quantity before clicking submit to commit it to the system. Subtracting is effectively the same thing, in which you'll select your item, pick the location in which you'd like to pull your goods from, tie it to an order if necessary, fill in the quantity that you'll be deducting, and clicking submit when you complete. Finally, in the app, we can relocate inventory from one location to another. After selecting your item, you can pick the from location as being related to where your goods are just located at, and putting them to a different location, which is anyone from your available list. Again, fill in the amount that you wish to relocate, and clicking submit will update the transaction accordingly. Back in Midnight, now if we exit and re-enter the item, we can see a list of our transactions that we just made, the add, the subtract, and also the move, which features 2 transactions, letting us see how our locations quantities are set up. That way we can determine what exactly is where. This sums up in the quantities tab to let us know exactly how much of any particular item we have. So that way when you produce any type of report, such as a skid flag or a work order, which references the goods, you can see a full breakout of where your item is and how much is located where. There are other ways to add, subtract, and relocate inventory from within Midnight, such as using the add, move, and subtract buttons within an item, or by using the deduction methods within an order, either by auto-deducting within the job, or the close date application or ship date application, or just by having a version-based deduction on demand process. Finally, within the inventory app, you can use the find command. This gives you several different ways to locate your inventory, either by using the barcode button in the upper right to scan a barcode and find out where it's located, or by selecting from one of the criteria in the top of the device, typing in your details, selecting your item, and then seeing a breakdown of where portions of that item are located. Next, we'll move on to our Shopfloor data collection program. There are 2 different ways to use our Shopfloor data collection system. These will both allow you to integrate employee time records into Midnight's general workflow. The first requirements can be controlled within the admin menu under the employee list. In here, each necessary employee that should have access to the Shopfloor account needs to be given a shift, which highlights the time frames in which they're allowed to work, and also any breaks that are associated with their shift. Additionally, under the Job Tracking tab, you can assign a wage rate and also kiosk information, which highlights if a user is allowed to be checked into multiple jobs simultaneously, and if so, how many. If the employee account is a simple temporary employee or temp account. If the user must clock in before they can start logging time against jobs in particular or tasks within those jobs. And finally, a kiosk code that allows them to log themselves into the system itself. Additionally, under the user login and permissions list, there are several different user security roles that can be assigned. If you have a user account that you wish to have no access to the rest of Midnight, but you wish for them to be able to have general access to Shopfloor itself, give them the data collection security role. This will prevent them from being able to log into Midnight and potentially interact with orders, estimates, inventory, etc. in a negative way. Alternatively, if you need to have your users able to access various areas of Midnight, such as a sales rep or CSR, you can leave their security role alone, so that way they can just have their general rights. Additionally, for the shop floor, there are a couple of other drop-downs within it that we can control. First will be under the standard services themselves. If you have a service that you want an employee to log time against, you'll need to allow it to appear on the shop floor device itself. Additionally, if you want to be able to modify the completion status of one of the tasks that you're working on, those can be handled within our global settings. Under our DJB list. In here, any task status that you have can be assigned to one of your tasks as your team begins work. Additionally, if you have a user jobbing into a task and has not yet updated it with an out status, for the convenience of our dynamic job board to update its scheduling functionality, you can have a default status applied to anything that is being jobbed in for the first time. This can be any of the statuses that you have listed below, but is by default listed as in progress. To get into your shop floor, there's one thing that you'll need to do if you're using a PC, which we will not need to do if you're using an iDevice. You will need to use Chrome, and in order to access it, you'll need to simply type in Shopfloor before your URL. This brings you to our Shopfloor data collection website for your data specifically. On an iDevice or other mobile device, you'll notice that this will be formatted a little differently. On a PC, that formatting doesn't come straight out of Chrome. You'll need to download our user agent switcher extension. And while running it, select under iOS the iPad choice. This changes the login screen and all subsequent screens to be formatted as though you're using an iDevice, such as an iPad or iPhone, and allows our Shopfloor capture system to work as needed. The extension can be grabbed from this website. I'll have this posted in the training video link. Once picked, by clicking Add to Chrome, it's very easy to install and can be used as needed just by selecting the mask here in the upper right and applying the iPad view. To log into the Shopfloor application, you do need a general user account to get you in for your site. By default, any of your users will be able to get into this by using the Shopfloor 1 account. This will be provided to you should you decide to utilize our Shopfloor system, and we'll provide you a password to get in as well. Once you're in, now you have the ability to add your employee code. This will relate to you as the user. And once you're in, you can begin your general process for clocking in, out, and also jobbing in and out. To clock in, it's as simple as tapping the clock in button. And once the user is clocked in, if they have the require clock in button to job in checked, then they can begin jobbing into tasks as they need. By clicking job in, your users will immediately be brought to a list of all of your open orders with incomplete tasks associated with them. This list can also be viewed on your dynamic job board. Taking note that the longest outstanding orders will always be listed at the top, and the newest will be listed at the bottom. If you click into the job that you'd like to do your work with, and then confirm the job by clicking it again or tapping it with your finger again, you'll be brought into a screen in which you can select among the workable services for this particular job. We can see this service information here will match what we see under our respective department tab. In this case, for order number 1689, we can see that we have a folding service to do some work with. Now, one thing that is a little different from the two views is that both will show version-based information. If you're not familiar with our versioning process, then it may not be a crucial component to your daily workflow. Versioning allows you to create an order within an order, so to speak. So that way you can have different groups of services and other tasks set up to be shipped or billed as needed based on time frame to your customer. In this case, my job has two versions, identified by the V2 for the second instance. You can see here that our project is not the V2 job, so we're logging into our version 0 task. You can do so by clicking into the work, picking some further details such as what machine you'd like to do the work on. And after confirming the details of what it is that we're going to be working on, we can input our start count if necessary, and click OK to actually log our time against the task. Now at this point, for a new task that's being jumped into for the first time, the status here will be updated to in progress. This is in contrast to the new that is defaulted for any task that has not yet been worked on. Any work that's already been done can be logged against a service and seen within a couple of different areas. The actual time column here will show us work that has been logged already. And we can also see this within the within the job costing menu of the records themselves. In this case, we can see a few instances of work done on job number 1689 for our folding service. If we click into these, we can adjust them, swapping out a different start time and end time and a different date as well. And if needed to, we can delete the job entry entirely. Now we've been logged in for a short time. We click Job Out. The task here in question allows us to change the status on our dynamic job board of the task that we're working on. If we mark it as complete, then it will fall off of the dynamic job board. And this can be done either by selecting BJB status as completed here, or by checking the checkbox right underneath it. In this case, if we complete our task, we'll be given a confirmation of the start and end time and some other details on the job, info, and quantity before clicking OK to confirm it. And back in our job costing menu, if we rerun our search, we can see that our new entry is listed here with a short count that represents work that was done on this and by whom. By refreshing our dynamic job board, we can also see that our time that has been worked on for a particular task will vanish in this case as we've completed it. Updating it to show completed tasks will show the time as having accrued the new time in which work has been set to, as well as the application of a completed status. As you continue to do work in this process, once all services on a version or within a job are completed, then the entirety of the job will fall off. And this can be seen within the order view. In which if we run a search for our specific job, 1689, looking for the completed case, we'll bring up our second line letting us know that our one service has been completed with the updated status for the whole job itself as complete. We can also click into the job itself and forcibly update the status of any and all services on the particular job by updating them with the complete status as needed. Or if we need to undo it, such as if work was mistakenly logged, we can take the status for the line item itself here or within the task view and swap it to a different task status. If we need to log time in other ways, we can use the actual time blue text to select and log time in against the task forcefully. This is useful if you have users that do not need to log into the shop floor to log their time, such as your data team that may be in front of a computer already and can thus use this easily. In this case, they can simply click the actual time, select their name from a drop-down menu, plug in the amount of time that they've worked on a particular task and what they exactly did for the task before clicking submit to update the time. You'll see in this case now, my small portion of time will be updated to a much larger portion of time as I've just committed a new time record. And in this regard, if we update our job detail list of search, we'll see an update to the task that we just did our work on, giving us the time that we simply added in by force and the employee who did it. Finally, within the employee screen, after you've jumped in and you're handling yourself as a user, you'd be expected to clock out at the end of your shift. These time entries can be viewed under the time records list of our job costing module, in which case we can see my account here as being logged in on this day, coming in at 2:24 p.m. and out at 2:33 p.m. for a small portion of total time in the system. Some of our reports that track this information can be found within our Reports View module. These can be spotted under our job costing reports. For starters, the employee timesheet report allows us to see when a user has jumped in full over a period of time. In this case, myself, you can see I've logged in one time for today. And our detailed time clock report will show instances of a user clocked in over a period of time, adjustable by your choice. Other useful reports here include the service detailed time clock report. This will allow you to see what work has been done by what user over a period of time, either by selecting a new employee or plugging a date range. This will show a breakout of the user, the job they did the work for, what task was worked on, and the duration, to list the total sum of work that was performed by this particular user over a period of time. The employee's active jobs report will show a list of employees that are currently marked in against the system. And the active job detail does a similar task. It will list employees in the system. You'll see in this case my active job detail is blank. If I update my shop floor by logging in, and then rerun our active job detail report, we'll see that I'm now logged in against a specific job with a simple breakout of when I jumped into the job and how long I've been working on it so far. This is a good report to track your employees' current work, and also lets you know at the end of a shift or at the end of your production day or time frame which users have not yet logged out and need to. And one other convenience is that there is a widget that can be accessed within the employee list for any particular user account. This widget of which will appear on your home screen list under the active jobs widget to let you know who's logged in and when they got into the system. Finally, we have two reports that track this data on the job level itself for profitability purposes. You can either use the job detail analysis report found within the reports module or within an order itself. And in this case, you can select your job and identify any direct labor costs associated with that particular task. This of which will sum up to a grand total at the bottom, be listed as a labor expense, and calculated out of your service revenue for profit. Additionally, we have two summary profitability reports. By default, the summary profitability all and by customer. These reports do pretty much what you'd expect. They'll list a customer that has work logged against them, when the job was closed, assuming it's been completed and logged as a sale, and a breakdown of labor, which is calculated from any work that has been entered in through either the dynamic job board or the Shopfloor application, to track a profit margin and let you know how your sales are doing. Finally, within your shifts menu, you can assign a break to your specific work shift. This shift, because that needs to be applied to all employees, will, if a break is applied, add the break button to the Shopfloor module itself. When a user is logged in, they can click the break button. This will allow them to select which break to apply And for their timesheet reports, it will list the break time as being calculated in to effectively track the amount of time the user's been logged in and check against their performance. One final thing to be aware of, the iPad emulation view occasionally does conflict with other sites, such as YouTube if you were to attempt to view one of our training videos, or some other sites that you may have general interaction with. Be sure to change your spoofer's view back to Chrome before proceeding to use Midnight or other websites for whatever other purposes you may need them for. Those are our two most major topics for today. We'll also be looking today at our API integration methods. In order to use our API integration with alternative programs such as WindowBook, PageDNA, or MyOrderDesk, it'll start by requiring a token, which, if you have this available on your site, can be found under the global settings. The site token listed in your site token property here will be customized to your specific site, and this will be the code passed out to other websites that connect into Midnight to plug your data from that program into Midnight by force. Some websites may already have a code method that they use to push information into Midnight, such as an online order site that feeds sales into your orders list, or something like Salesforce, which pushes in customer or CRM activity into your customer database. There are other ways to use this API, and that's by using the Midnight WS instance. In here, you'll have a series of predefined XML documents in which you can fill out as needed, select from our list here to pick and choose for the upload method, after which you can attach your XML file of choice, built with whatever information it needs to relate to, and then push it into the system by clicking the Submit button. This is one of our more common methods of API integration, as it allows virtually anyone to push data into Midnight, as long as they have a method built on their side, which converts the text into a compatible method of format for import. We have a document that will go over all of the different use cases in which you'll run into, highlighting the various different web service methods for data input, as well as data extraction out of Midnight. There's a lot to parse through in here. So if you have any questions, we can provide you with our API guide. And assuming you do have our API integration package as part of your standard software, then we can assist you with building this to a degree and help get your data into the system. Next, we'll be looking at the customer portal or client portal. Because Midnight's customer database allows you to assign a portal to the customers as needed, you can opt in to use our portal system. In this case, all that's necessary is for you to enter the portal tab within one of your customer records. In here, you can create usernames for any customer that would be given permissions to log into the portal, and define what they're allowed to see by checking the boxes underneath each corresponding module. Additionally, you define the username and password and can edit it by force by clicking the edit button and swapping out the username and password with whatever you or the customer needs. If you do have your customer able to access the portal, you'll be giving them the VS Client website. This is effectively the same as your VS Midnight URL, only you're swapping the word Midnight for client. This prompts the user with a login screen specifically tailored towards the portal. And upon filling out the information for their credentials, they can log in and get an at-a-glance view of various pieces of information related to their account. In this case, there are 4 core modules: the customer service, which includes open estimates and orders; the inventory, which obviously includes the item records; the postage, which includes customer escrow balances; and the proofs, which includes outstanding proofs that need to either be approved, rejected, or simply be reviewed from the past. Within the customer service view, you have access to your estimates and orders by clicking the various modules at the top. You can enter your estimate or order records by clicking the number and then seeing a few details of the job or estimate itself, such as the job name or estimate name, the assigned sales rep and CSR, and the estimation total of tax and services. Additionally, this filter can be customized, as in it can be used by plugging in data to return filtered out data as needed. You can either fill in data by typing in instances here at the top, or by clicking the column name to apply sorts based on alphabetical or ascending descending order of whatever criteria you're working with. Additionally, under here, you can click the Request a Quote button. In here, by clicking New Quote, an email can be set up in which you, as one of the contacts for the customer account, can send an email to one of the representatives at your site or your side with details on what it is that the quote would be for. Under the inventory module in here, you can see and access any item records that are designated and assigned to this particular customer. In here, quantities can be viewed, as well as if an image is part of the object. Under the postage module, you can see a full breakout of the current available funds in their escrow accounts, any funds that are earmarked against current jobs, and the total outstanding balance that a customer may have yet to pay for any jobs that have no funds assigned to them, or funds in escrow that have not yet been applied out of escrow to that particular job. Finally, there's the proofs module, and in here, your customers can view any proofs that have been added in. By clicking into a proof, they can see any of the items that are part of the proof, such as the attached file or files. And they can choose to apply an approval or rejection to the proof, with comments as well if necessary. And if needed, upload a file of their own, so that way you, as their customer provisionee, can update any order records as needed. Finally, we have some accounting integration to look at. We briefly looked at this in our other training sessions. Under the admin menu, under the accounts GLID list, you'll see a list of all available GLID or general ledger ID numbers that you can assign to your services. This list can be modified by either clicking the edit button for any particular line item and changing up the title, or by adding new cases in the gray bar at the bottom. This list works in tandem with the account item code, in which both the account item code and GLID can help make sure that your data is being mapped correctly out of Midnight and into any accounts that they need to hit within your accounting program of choice. You'll be expected to set this up for not only your services, but your taxes. Typically, your tax codes may receive a GLID, which can be added in by name, as well as a jurisdiction potentially. Additionally, the services themselves can be given default GLIDs. These GLIDs are loaded from the drop-down list, as well as item codes for proper mapping. After making sure these are set up to match your accounting software's needs, you can also be sure to select under your global settings the accounting integration package that you'll be using. In here, if you are, say, using QuickBooks, select it from our list, fill out your appropriate accounts receivable and payable information, some details to be chosen and defined with the export process, such as if your jobs will handle services that are taxable on a non-taxable or taxable order level versus service level integration, and also how postage payments are assigned to, as in which account your postage payments are added to. Once done with this, click Submit, and you can begin to prepare your accounting export process. Finally, under the estimates and orders, there's one choice under here that can allow you to export jobs out of Midnight whether or not they have been closed, as being closed is the general criteria necessary in order to push data out of Midnight. If you assign your customers as being able to prepay for their jobs, this checkbox will automatically assign that value to your customer records. This, in tandem with your tax jurisdiction, can be applied to your customers to make your export process a little bit easier. The taxable status and tax jurisdiction here will automatically be applied to your orders and your estimates as you create them. The prepay checkbox, when selected, allows you to export a closed job or open job for that customer at any point. Typically, in order to prepare a job for export, you'll need to make sure that it is closed, and that is simply done by applying a close date to the job itself. Being aware that any line items that are associated with GLIDs to the order will be exported out, as well as postage records may have their own GLIDs tied to them. To get to your accounting export menu, select the Quick Links Accounting Export choice, and this will bring you to a list of all of your currently non-exported orders. You can see this by the exported column equal to N here on the right. And to export one or multiple jobs out of the system, check either one or multiple checkboxes as you proceed through. Make sure to define whether you want one invoice per file or per job that's being exported out, or if you don't mind consolidating them into a single document for mass import. Clicking the Save and Close button to bring you to the export screen, and clicking the Export Now button to generate your file. This will create an IIF file if you're running QuickBooks, which can easily be viewed in either Excel or Notepad. and will contain all the information necessary for a full import into your QuickBooks program or other accounting program of choice. You'll see a breakout of services, taxes, and postage. Each have their own individual lines, as well as a job info within its own line at the top. And within QuickBooks, if you were to use the file import method under utilities, you can select your IIF file, browse to the location in which your IIF has been saved to, just a moment here. And select your file for import. Once your data has been imported, you can access your invoices, check your chart of accounts to make sure everything's been applied properly, and overall just double check that your customer records have been updated as necessary and all of your GLID map jobs have been properly set. There are a few other things you can export out of Midnight. If you are using QuickBooks, under the Tools Postage module, you can see your balances and checks that have been received for any particular customer. The checks will all be defined with a check number in the adjustments list of that customer and can be viewed as needed. These too can be exported out. And finally, purchase orders can be exported out of Midnight. In order to do this, you will need to make sure that your vendor name matches your QuickBooks vendor, and also that any line items for the purchase order are updated within their Details tab to be given a GLID and/or item code. To get to the extraction process for these, you'll need to return to the Orders Quick Links Accounting Export package. And from here, under the Quick Links again, select either your postage check export or your purchase order export. In here, you can select the check or checks in which you need to push out of Midnight. And by using a similar process to what we saw before, extract out your check data, or your purchase order data. And open for review to confirm that they are the way that they need to be. One last thing about the accounting exports process. While you can push out your purchase orders and postage received funds or checks, it's only the orders themselves that are ever marked as being exported out. If you enter a job that's been closed or is still open but has been exported, then you'll be able to see within the Details tab for that job the AR export date. This date and time will populate, letting you know the most recent date and time at which your job has been pushed out of Midnight. And this information can be double checked within Midnight's accounting reports, either the AR export by date range, letting you see what orders have been exported out and their totals, or the GLID totals report, which shows your exported order information by GLID rather than by job. Run these in comparison to your accounting program, and you can use this to double check and make sure that all your numbers match. That's everything for today. We'll go ahead and wrap up today's training session. We'll go ahead and take everyone off mute, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask.